Hi, guys. We're continuing to talk about civil rights, and today we're going to talk about equal justice under the law. And the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection of the law. We'll talk about it in a minute. Despite attempts to protect their civil rights after the Civil War, African Americans suffered discrimination, unequal treatment, and legalized segregation. Women's struggle for equal justice initially centered on the right to vote. Okay, why it matters. The key amendments for the equal rights in the state and local governments as well as federal governments is the 14th Amendment. And you want to know that that provides equal protection. There was equal protection as well under the law, due process and things in the Fifth Amendment, but the 14th Amendment is the amendment that applies that to the states. Courts have used the Equal Protection Clause and to ban discrimination by the government. To ban, it should be. Equal Protection Clause says that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The Equal Protection Clause is the part of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution that requires states to apply the law the same way for one person that they would for another person. A reasonable distinction, unless there's a reasonable distinction, that means that there are times when it's illegal to distinguish between different groups of people. Reasonable distinction, the courts have developed several tests to determine if reasonable distinction exists. And these are the tests for reasonable distinction. Is there a rational basis? Is there intermediate scrutiny? This is, let's look at it and make a decision based upon rational thinking, and then strict scrutiny. Laws, they're going to be evaluated very strictly. For instance, a reasonable distinction might be charging visitors to a state park between people who visit the park and those who don't. You cannot charge those with red hair, for instance, more than those with brown hair. Well, that would be a rational basis. You can't do that. So, at any rate, let's go on. Rational basis test. Under the rational basis test, treating groups differently is valid if the law in question establishes a reasonable method for accomplishing a legitimate goal of government. And for instance, driver's license. There is a rational basis for saying you have to be 16 years of age to get a license. We would not want to give a driver's license to an 18-year-old, or excuse me, to an 8-year-old. That would not be rational. And so the state of Georgia has a law that says you have to be 16 to get a driver's license. Or are we discriminating against 12-year-olds? Yes, we are. But there's a rational basis for doing so. Intermediate scrutiny test is when the courts will look at laws and they will impose a higher standard to determine if laws violate equal protection. And for instance, the Selective Service Draft. Men and women are treated differently. So we have all the young men that have to register for the draft. Young ladies, when they turn 18, do not. And there's intermediate scrutiny. Is that discrimination? Yes, that is discrimination. And the court looks at that very carefully and says, okay, maybe it does serve the better good just to have the men at this point register for the draft. But the highest test, the highest standard is applied under strict scrutiny. And this is when a fundamental right is being restricted, such as the right to free speech or the right to vote, or a classification is made based on race or national origin. Suspect classification is the distinction or classification in a law that's based on race or national origin. It's very difficult to meet this classification for a law to pass this classification because they are all suspect. It violates the Equal Protection Clause. Government, in order to have a law that discriminates between persons, has to have a compelling reason for doing so. And for instance, in 1944, the Supreme Court ruled that there was a compelling reason for treating Japanese Americans different than Anglo-Americans. And so they said, yeah, during this season, these circumstances, that is, we're applying strict scrutiny, but that does pass muster. But in Loving versus Virginia, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously for Loving. Virginia had a law that said blacks could not marry whites. And it went before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that no, that is discrimination against blacks and whites for that ruling. So they overturned in Loving versus Virginia. So now you see biracial couples, which you didn't see a lot of before. Laws of segregation and segregation after the Civil War, laws changed with the amendments, but society had not. And when Reconstruction stopped in 1877, the South began to pass Jim Crow laws, which legalized segregation in various things. And the Union of the United States then passed these various Reconstruction amendments. The 13th banned slavery, 14th made all people born in the United States required states to guarantee them citizens, and required states to guarantee the citizens due process and equal protection. And then the 15th Amendment gave African American men the right to vote. They also passed several civil rights laws and these various, you can see those there in your book as well. Two key factors that allowed state governments to create unequal systems. End of Reconstruction in the South, as I mentioned, and then Supreme Court decisions that upheld racial discrimination, such as Plessy v. Ferguson. And this is just something I threw in there for you to look at. The election, the presidential election of 1876 was very, very, in fact, very close, 1877. And you can see here 185 electoral votes for the Republican to 184 for the Democrat. Now, actually, to be quite honest with you, the Democrat won this election. But the Democrats said, we want Reconstruction to stop. All these federal troops in the southern states here, we want them gone. And so Florida, South Carolina, Louisiana, those electoral votes were given to the Republican Hayes, although they were very suspect. And he won the election. As a result, they pulled all the federal troops out of the Confederacy, which then passed the Jim Crow laws. So the two key factors that allowed state governments to create these unequal laws was the end of Reconstruction and Supreme Court decisions that upheld these systems. And there was the rise of extremist groups in the South, like the KKK, and these groups tended to dominate government. Segregation is the separation of racial groups, or apartheid is what it was called in South Africa, excuse me. Jim Crow laws were segregation laws aimed at mainly at African Americans in the late 1800s, early 1900s, with the goal of maintaining white privilege and power. Racial segregation continued. The court ruled that the Civil Rights Act of 1875 was unconstitutional because the 14th Amendment only prohibited discrimination by governments, not private individuals. Plessy v. Ferguson upheld the idea that separate but equal was okay. This doctrine that as long as the facilities were equal, you could segregate. And there was a long battle for fighting separate but equal laws by the NAACP. And this is a sign that was hanging outside the office of the NAACP in New York City, just bringing attention to the plight of the black man, especially black people in the South. Although Ohio and a lot of other states also had a lot of growth in the KKK. Rights for women. Women in the North had played a key role in the abolition of slavery, and they began to campaign for women's rights after the 15th Amendment was passed. Suffrage is the right to vote. You need to know that. The women's movement begins in 1848 with the Seneca Falls Convention. This was the first women's rights convention held in the United States. It called for equal voting rights for women and other areas like education, property. They adopted a Declaration of Sentiments that is modeled very closely on the Declaration of Independence, and it called for equal rights for women. And progress was made at state and territorial levels, with western states often leading the way. In fact, Wyoming, I think, women were granted the right in 1869 to vote on things. So this is the Declaration of Sentiments, and you can see it closely parallels the Declaration of Independence. In fact, Declaration of Independence, stated the reason for our separation from England. And let's just read this first paragraph. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one portion of the family of man to assume among the people of the earth a position different from that which they have hitherto occupied, but one to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes that impel them to such a course. Very similar. If you compare the two documents, you would see that they follow suit. And that was purposeful and brilliant, I might add. And then the Declaration of Sentiments, there were, I think, 27 reasons given in the Declaration of Independence. Likewise, in the Declaration of Sentiments, these are things that compel them for this declaration. And you can look at that. And finally, after 70 years, the 19th Amendment was ratified in 1920. It gave women the right to vote. And all the women in America, age at that time 21 and up, were given the right to vote. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Early Plessy v. Ferguson was de jure segregation, that is legal segregation. You want to note the difference between de jure segregation and de facto segregation. Early legal challenges, Gaines versus Canada, Swift versus Painter, but the one that overturned Plessy v. Ferguson was Brown versus the Board of Education. And in this, segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race deprived the children of the minority group of equal educational opportunities, and because of the psychological damage that is done. And again, you want to know what desegregation is, how the courts in Brown versus Board of Education address that. De facto segregation, you want to know how that differs from de jure segregation, and such as that. All right. I hope you enjoyed this show, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.